In 2026, the most powerful woman in the room won't be the loudest one. She won't explain herself. She won't argue. She won't announce her plans. She'll be focused, silent, disciplined. And when people finally notice her, it'll already be too late to stop her. Silence is often misunderstood, especially when it comes from a woman. People assume that if you're not explaining yourself, you're unsure. If you're not reacting, you're weak. If you're not speaking up, you must be losing. But in reality, silence is not absence. Silence is control. And in 2026, control is everything. Think about how much energy gets wasted trying to be understood, explaining why you made a decision, justifying why you changed, defending boundaries you had every right to set. Every explanation hands your power outward. It invites opinions, judgments, and emotional interference. Silence does the opposite. Silence closes the door. It says, I trust myself enough not to debate my life. When a woman chooses silence, she's not withdrawing, she's observing, she's watching patterns, she's noticing who only listens when she's loud and who respects her even when she says nothing. Silence sharpens awareness. You begin to see who benefits from your reactions and who gets uncomfortable when they no longer have access to them. There's a reason silence unsettles people. When you stop reacting, they lose leverage. When you stop explaining, they lose control over the narrative. When you stop defending yourself, they're forced to sit with their own assumptions. Silence exposes motives. It reveals who needed your emotional energy to feel important and who respected your autonomy all along. In 2026, silence becomes a strategy because life moves fast and distractions are endless. Everyone wants your attention, your opinion, your response. Silence is how you filter noise from relevance. It's how you protect your nervous system. It's how you stay grounded when the world tries to pull you into unnecessary battles. This doesn't mean you never speak. It means you choose when your voice matters. It means you stop arguing with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. It means you realize that clarity doesn't come from explaining more. It comes from engaging less. A silent woman is not passive. She's intentional. She listens more than she talks. She moves more than she announces. She lets people underestimate her because she understands something most don't. Underestimation is an advantage. When no one sees your next move, no one can interfere with it. Silence also teaches emotional discipline. Not every feeling needs to be expressed in real time. Not every trigger deserves your reaction. When you pause instead of responding, you regain authority over your emotions. You stop being led by impulse and start acting from clarity. Calm becomes your baseline, not your reward. And here's the part most people don't talk about. Silence heals. It gives you space to hear your own thoughts again. It helps you separate intuition from external pressure. When you stop filling every moment with words, answers start showing up. You realize how much wisdom was drowned out by constant explanation. Silence changes how people treat you. When you stop over-communicating, your words gain weight. When you speak less, people listen more. Your presence becomes stronger because it's no longer diluted by constant justification. You don't need to prove depth when your stillness already shows it. In 2026, silence is not about hiding. It's about conserving. Conserving energy, conserving focus, conserving peace. It's about understanding that you don't owe everyone access to your inner world. Privacy is not secrecy. It's self-respect. And when someone tries to provoke you, rush you, or pressure you into explaining yourself, remember this. Silence is not what you do when you have nothing to say. Silence is what you choose when you finally understand your power. Sometimes the strongest move is to say nothing. And let your silence do the talking. For a long time, women were taught that focusing on themselves was something to apologize for. If you chose your own growth, you were called distant. If you protected your time, you were called selfish. If you stopped pouring into everyone else, you were told you'd changed. But here's the truth. Most people never say out loud. The moment a woman starts focusing on herself, she stops being convenient. And that discomfort others feel has nothing to do with her being wrong. Self-focus is not self-absorption, it's self-respect. It's the decision to stop abandoning yourself just to keep the peace. When you consistently choose yourself, you're not rejecting others. You're correcting a pattern where your needs always came last. And in 2026, that correction is necessary. Think about how much energy gets drained trying to be everything to everyone. The emotional labor, the overgiving, the constant checking in, fixing, supporting, understanding. When a woman shifts her focus inward, she starts to notice how much of her time was being spent maintaining relationships that were never pouring back into her. Self-focus reveals imbalance. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Focusing on yourself means asking better questions. Is this connection adding to my life or pulling from it? Is this habit building me or keeping me stuck? Is this version of me chosen intentionally or shaped by expectations? These questions don't make you cold, they make you conscious. A woman who focuses on herself stops chasing validation. She no longer needs approval to move forward. She doesn't adjust her boundaries to avoid being misunderstood. She understands that being liked is not the same as being respected, and respect begins with how she treats herself when no one is watching. This kind of focus brings discipline. You start showing up for your body even when no one notices. You take care of your mind because clarity matters more than applause. You invest in skills, health, and financial stability quietly, consistently. There's no announcement, no explanation, just progress. And here's the shift that changes everything. When you focus on yourself, your standards rise naturally. Not because you're trying to be difficult, but because you finally know your worth. You stop negotiating with people who don't meet you where you are. You stop overextending for those who underdeliver. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces that were never designed for your growth. Some people will call this selfish. Let them. People who benefited from your self-neglect will always be uncomfortable when you stop. Their reaction is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to your future. Self-focus also sharpens intuition. When you're no longer drowning in everyone else's emotions, you can hear your own. You sense misalignment faster. You trust your gut more. You don't need proof to walk away from what feels wrong. You understand that peace is not something you earn, it's something you choose. In 2026, focusing on yourself doesn't mean isolation. It means intention. It means choosing quality over quantity in relationships. It means knowing when to engage and when to step back. It means understanding that your inner RGY is your currency and not everyone deserves access to it. A focused woman moves differently. She doesn't rush. She doesn't compete. She doesn't explain. She's building a life that feels aligned, not one that looks impressive to strangers. Her progress is quiet, but it's real. And that's what makes it powerful. When you stop centering your life around other people's expectations, you create space for who you're meant to become. And that version of you doesn't need permission. Focusing on yourself isn't selfish. It's how you finally come home to yourself. There's a moment every woman reaches where motivation stops showing up on time. The excitement fades. The mood changes. The spark that once pushed you forward becomes inconsistent. And for a long time, we were taught to wait for motivation, to feel ready, inspired, energized. But in 2026, waiting is no longer an option. Discipline takes the lead. Discipline is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't care how you feel today. It simply asks one question: are you showing up or not? And the women who understand this stop depending on emotions to move their lives forward. They build systems instead of chasing feelings. Motivation is unpredictable. Some days it's there, most days it isn't. Discipline doesn't disappear when life gets heavy. It doesn't leave when you're tired, bored, or overwhelmed. Discipline stays. It's what gets you out of bed when no one is watching. It's what keeps you consistent when progress feels slow and invisible. This is where silent growth begins. No posting, no explaining, no validation, just repetition, just effort, just commitment. You work on your body because strength matters. You sharpen your mind because clarity creates leverage. You improve your skills because independence is power. And you do it without waiting for applause. Discipline removes drama from growth. There's no internal negotiation every morning, no emotional debate about whether today is the day. You already decided, you're already committed, and that decision, made once, saves you from hundreds of future moments of self-doubt. A disciplined woman understands something most people don't: consistency compounds. Small actions done daily outperform big efforts done occasionally. 10 focus minutes every day will beat a burst of inspiration once a month. Discipline respects time, motivation wastes it. This shift changes how you see yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your confidence grows quietly. Not the loud kind, the grounded kind, the kind that doesn't need reassurance. You start trusting yourself again. And self-trust is the foundation of self-respect. Discipline also protects your focus. In a world designed to distract you, discipline creates boundaries. You stop scrolling aimlessly. You stop reacting to everything. You stop letting other people's chaos set the tone for your day. You decide what matters and you act accordingly. And here's the part that matters most. Discipline is how you stay silent and still progress. You don't need to explain your routine. You don't need to defend your schedule. You don't need to justify your priorities. Your discipline speaks through your results. There will be days when it feels boring, when it feels repetitive, when it feels like nothing is changing. That's when discipline matters most, because those are the days when most people quit, and staying when others leave is how separation happens. A disciplined woman doesn't look for shortcuts. She doesn't rush the process. She understands that the work she does today is shaping the life she'll live tomorrow. And she's patient enough to let that happen. In 2026, discipline becomes your anchor. When emotions fluctuate, discipline remains. When motivation disappears, discipline carries you. When no one notices your effort, discipline keeps you moving. And one day, people will call your growth sudden. They'll say it happened overnight. They won't see the mornings you showed up tired, the days you stayed consistent without encouragement, the weeks you kept going in silence. Let them believe it was sudden. You'll know it was discipline. Emotions are powerful, but unmanaged emotions are expensive. They cost clarity, peace, and sometimes entire years of your life. For a long time, women were encouraged to feel deeply but not taught how to regulate those feelings. The result was emotional exhaustion, reacting quickly, over-explaining constantly, and carrying weight that was never meant to be yours. In 2026, emotional detachment becomes a skill, not a defense. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop letting emotions run your decisions. There's a difference between feeling something and being controlled by it. When you learn to pause before reacting, you create space between stimulus and response. And in that space, you regain power. Think about how many situations escalated simply because emotions took the wheel. A message read at the wrong time, a comment taken personally, a tone misinterpreted. Emotional detachment slows the moment down. It allows you to ask, is this worth my energy? Before you spend it. A woman with emotional clarity doesn't respond to everything. She observes, she listens, she processes. She understands that not every thought deserves a voice, and not every emotion needs expression. Some things are better acknowledged privately and released quietly. This level of restraint brings mental clarity. When your mind isn't constantly flooded with emotional reactions, decisions become cleaner. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop overthinking conversations that don't matter. You stop replaying moments that were never meant to define you. Detachment also protects your nervous system. Constant emotional engagement keeps the body in a state of alert. Over time, that stress turns into fatigue, anxiety, and burnout. Emotional restraint calms the system. It brings your body back into balance. Peace becomes sustainable, not occasional. And here's something important. Emotional detachment changes how people interact with you. When you stop reacting emotionally, manipulation stops working. Drama loses its grip. Provocation falls flat. People quickly learn that they can't pull you into chaos anymore. This doesn't make you cold. It makes you centered. You still feel empathy. You still care. But you don't carry emotions that aren't yours. You don't take responsibility for other people's reactions. You understand that maturity is knowing where your emotional responsibility ends. Detachment also strengthens boundaries when emotions aren't running. The show, it's easier to say no without guilt, easier to walk away without explanation, easier to choose peace over proving a point. You stop needing closure from people who never offered clarity. In 2026, emotional intelligence isn't about expressing everything. It's about controlling when and how you express. Silence becomes part of regulation. Stillness becomes a response. You learn that calm is not weakness, it's discipline. There will be moments when silence feels uncomfortable, when everything in you wants to react, correct, defend, or explain. Those are the moments where growth happens. Every time you choose composure over impulse, you strengthen your inner authority. Emotional detachment also gives you time. Time to think, time to assess, time to choose wisely. It prevents decisions made from anger, fear, or insecurity, and decisions made from clarity build stable lives. A woman who masters emotional restraint becomes unpredictable in the best way. She's no longer reactive. She's no longer easy to read or control. Her calm confuses those who relied on her reactions. And slowly, something shifts inside. You feel lighter, more grounded, more in control. You realize that peace is not something you chase, it's something you maintain. When you stop reacting emotionally, you start responding intentionally. And intention changes everything. For a long time, many women were conditioned to explain themselves before anyone even asked, to justify their choices, to soften their standards so they wouldn't be misunderstood, to make their growth more comfortable for others. But in 2026, explanations lose their power and results take over. Explanations invite debate. They open doors for opinions that were never requested. The more you explain, the more people feel entitled to weigh in, and most of the time, they're not trying to understand you. They're trying to maintain access to the version of you they were comfortable with. Results don't argue. They don't convince. They don't seek approval. They simply exist. When your life begins to reflect your discipline, your focus, and your boundaries, there's nothing left to explain. Your growth speaks before you ever open your mouth. Think about how often explanations slow you down. You pause your progress to bring others up to speed. You revisit old decisions to defend new ones. You spend energy clarifying your intentions instead of advancing your life. Letting results speak frees you from that loop. A woman who understands this moves quietly. She doesn't announce her plans. She doesn't warn people she's changing. She doesn't seek permission to evolve. She builds in private and lets the outcome do the talking. This kind of restraint creates strength. When you stop explaining, you stop oversharing. When you stop oversharing, you protect your vision. Not everyone needs access to your process. Not everyone deserves a seat in your becoming. And here's something important. Explanations often come from doubt. When you trust yourself, the need to justify disappears. Confidence doesn't explain, it decides. It stands firm without defending itself. Letting results speak also requires patience. There's a delay between effort and outcome. During that time, people may question you. They may doubt you. They may misunderstand your silence. Let them. The woman who stays consistent while misunderstood always wins in the long run. This approach also filters relationships. Those who respect you will wait. Those who don't will demand explanations. And in that contrast, clarity emerges. You begin to see who supports your growth and who feels threatened by it. Results shift dynamics. People who once questioned you start observing you. Conversations change. Respect replaces skepticism. And even then, you don't need to explain. You let the work continue. In 2026, success isn't loud. It's undeniable. It shows up in how you carry yourself, how you protect your time, how you choose your peace. It shows up in your consistency, not your announcements. There's also freedom in not explaining. You no longer rehearse conversations in your head. You no longer prepare defenses for choices you believe in. You stop negotiating your worth in discussions that lead nowhere. Letting results speak aligns perfectly with silence, discipline, and emotional clarity. These are not separate strategies. They reinforce each other. Silence protects your focus. Discipline builds the results. Emotional clarity keeps you steady. And the outcome speaks for itself. Some people will feel uncomfortable when you stop explaining. They'll fill the silence with assumptions. Let them. Their assumptions are not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to keep building. And one day, without a single explanation, your life will answer every question they ever had. Privacy used to be optional. Now it's essential. In a world where everything is shared, documented, and explained in real time, choosing privacy is no longer about hiding. It's about protecting. And in 2026, protection becomes a form of power. When you keep parts of your life private, you remove them from public influence. No opinions, no commentary, no energy leaks. Privacy gives your plans room to grow without interference. It allows you to move at your own pace, free from the pressure of expectations. Most people don't realize how much mental noise comes from being too visible. Sharing too early invites doubt. Sharing too often invites distraction. And sharing with the wrong people invites sabotage, sometimes intentional, often subtle. Privacy closes those doors before they ever open. A private woman moves differently. She doesn't feel the need to update everyone on her progress. She doesn't explain where she's going or how she's getting there. She understands that the less people know, the less they can influence, criticize, or interrupt. Privacy also strengthens focus. When your goals aren't constantly discussed, they stay clearer. You're not adjusting your vision based on reactions. You're not absorbing opinions that don't align with your values. Your direction remains steady because it's internal, not external. This kind of restraint creates confidence. You don't need reassurance when you're not broadcasting uncertainty. You don't need validation when your path is private. You start trusting your own judgment again, and that trust compounds. Privacy doesn't isolate you, it filters your circle. You become selective about who gets access to your thoughts, plans, and emotions. Not everyone earns that privilege, and that discernment brings peace. There's also safety in privacy, emotional safety, mental safety, spiritual safety. When fewer people know your struggles, fewer people can use them against you. When fewer people know your next move, fewer people can interfere. In 2026, privacy is a response to overexposure. It's choosing depth over display, substance over performance. You stop living for reactions and start living with intention. Privacy works quietly alongside silence, discipline, emotional clarity, and results. These principles are connected. Silence keeps your energy intact. Discipline builds your future. Emotional clarity protects your mind. Results speak for you. Privacy ensures the process remains yours. Some people will mistake your privacy for distance. Others will call it secrecy. Let them.